Ooh, welcome everyone to another episode of Slasher Scotty. I am your host, Scotty McCoy, and boy, do I have a surprise for all of you. I have on Zoom with me right now Deana Naja, and she played Catie in the Victim No More Friday the 13th fan film. And first, I have to say, this is my first interview I'm doing with my new backdrop. So I'm so excited about
Woo!
that. How you doing, Deana?
I am doing good. How are you, Scotty?
I'm doing good. I'm so glad I set this backdrop up last night, probably around 9 o'clock or so. So I'm so glad I got that set up. It's a two-piece backdrop, and I thought they were gonna cost a fortune. It was only $30. So I'm like,
Oh, look
heck
at that.
yeah.
Very spooky. I like it.
Thank you. I love it too. So the first question I always start off with that I gotta ask you so we can get a little background about yourself is, how did you get your start into acting?
Ugh, ugh. It's a story. So I did not grow up being an actor. I grew up being a competition dancer. So
Okay.
dancing was all that I knew in my life. And I graduated and I was dancing. And then I wanted to go to college, but I didn't want to major in dance because I thought that if I majored in dance, it would take the fun out of it. And I didn't want to do that. So I went to community college for liberal arts, as you do when you don't know what's going on. And as I was in community college, I was like, oh, let's take an acting class for shits and giggles. Like, I'm a dancer. Like, acting shouldn't be hard. Like, it's in the same family. It shouldn't be hard. Holy shit, that class kicked my ass because I went into it thinking, oh, this is going to be an easy A. I did so bad for the first few weeks. And, like, I got my shit together and I passed that class. And I was like, that was a lot of fun. I want to do more. So I took the other acting classes that was available. And then I did the inevitable thing. I changed my major and became a theater major. So then I graduated with an associate's in general theater in 2016. And yeah, it's been a downhill spiral ever since.
Nice. A lot of people think like just acting is memorize a few lines and say them on the screen, but there's so much more to it than that.
Yeah, like that's an important part.
Yeah.
Remembering memorizing your lines, that's a very important part of the process.
Hmm.
But like you have to really obviously understand who you're playing
Yeah.
in order to convey it on screen or on stage,
Mhm.
whatever you're doing. Thankfully, with Catie, when me and Bobby would talk about Catie and Dylan and all that, Catie pretty much is I feel like me and Catie are very kindred spirits. Like I'm very similar to Catie. I'm very sarcastic.
Mhm.
I'm not afraid to voice my opinion. Like if I don't want to be somewhere, I'm gonna let you know I don't want to be at that place. Like Catie doesn't really want to be
Mhm.
hunting for these cabins. Like that's a strictly Dylan thing that's going on there. Um so yeah, I felt like I could really understand Catie because Catie was very much me. So I really put in a lot of myself in her. So it's just acting is a lot of understanding who you're portraying and being able to portray that person to your audience, whether it's through a screen or through the stage in live
Right.
theater.
Right. So, what can you tell us about Catie? You told us a little bit about like who she is personally, but what can we expect from her in this movie? Is she a fighter? Is she a survivor? Like, what kind of person is Catie?
Catie, very sarcastic. She's very she's I like to see her as like the one who wears the pants in her relationship with Dylan. She's the leader. She's like, we're doing this, we're doing this. And she, from what we have discussed, she's the outdoorsy one of the two because if you notice in their costuming, Catie is in sneakers, she has a backpack, she's in leggings, and she's ready to go. Dylan's in jeans and a snapback and Converse shoes, which is not what you should be wearing when you're going hiking through the woods.
Mhm.
So Catie definitely is also the pants and more of the brain. And
Okay.
Dylan's just there to look pretty and also to know things about Jason that Catie doesn't really care about. But Catie loves him, so she just grins and bears it. She's like, "Okay, we're going to this woods just to make you happy."
Nice. So, obviously we're talking about Victim No More, and we really shouldn't go more into it without knowing what this movie is about for the fans and the people watching this interview. What can you tell them about Victim No More? What is this film about?
Victim No More is about our boy Robbie, and he is the son of a previous final girl, which I won't say right now, but he is the son of a previous final girl. And it's basically the movie's about how his being raised by his mother, it's kind of they had to basically grow up in like this trauma induced state where like his mom always made sure he knew how to protect himself, was overprotective, all that stuff, and that in fact that inflicted trauma went on to Robbie because Robbie's like, I have all these things, like I need to make sure I'm always wary of things and blah blah blah. And the movie's just about Robbie trying to help his family break free from that trauma by proving that Jason is dead and that he can't come back. So he goes out to Camp Crystal Lake to prove that Jason cannot hurt his family anymore. But as we know, things don't always go according to plan in these movies.
Yeah, that is for sure. So how did you become a part of Victim No More? How did you meet Bobby Heckman, and how did you become Catie?
So at late 2019 was when my theater career started booming more. I was getting like back to back to back shows. And during in the middle of that back to back to back shows, my one of my friends came up to me afterwards and was like, "Hey, my friend and coworker Bobby Heckman, he is doing a movie and he's doing auditions. Do you want me to like pass your name along and see if you can audition?" And I was like, "Yeah, I want to be in a movie." So we have the same mutual friend. And I reached out to Bobby and I was like, "I want to audition for your movie." And he was like, "Okay." And then he gave me the sides or the script parts that I should be reading over. And then I came over to his apartment, which, fun fact, his apartment complex I have now moved into. So now it's my apartment complex.
Nice.
So
Nice.
I actually auditioned right outside of my window over here on this pathway over there. I auditioned right over there. And as far as I know, I was one of the first people cast in the movie. So yeah, it was from a mutual friend. I met Bobby Heckman, and now my life is a sham because because now Bobby's in my life.
Bobby is an amazing, amazing guy. I interviewed him
Yes,
before. I want to have him on again to discuss Victim No More. Now that because I we did promote it already before it was released, and
mm-hmm.
now I'd like to promote it since it has been released and actually dive into the meat and potatoes and right into the nitty gritty, right into
Goodness
it,
of the movie.
and talk about the effects and everything that we want to discuss. He's such a great guy. Now I wasn't on set, obviously, so I don't know how he is as a director. So what can you tell us about Bobby as a director?
Bobby is so I this was my first time in a film setting, so I don't have much to go off of when it comes to like saying how he is as a film director, but I generally he knows what he wants in a shot, and he's not afraid to tell you like, even if you do a take really well, he's not afraid to be like, "Okay, that was good, but let's do it again." So like even if you do a scene like you acted and you're like, "Oh, that was good," like Bobby'd be like, "Yeah, but I need to do it like two more times just in case like, something goes wrong in like the transfer of the footage, or like in case the lighting was off like for a millisecond or the sound was off." So Bobby is very, I guess, meticulous is the word to use when it comes to what he wants. And obviously he's so amazing when it comes to the lore itself when it comes to Friday the 13th. Because I'm gonna say it flat out right now, I am not super into the Friday the 13th movies. I actually I hadn't seen them before watching being cast in this movie. I've seen some of them obviously since being cast, not all of them. But like, so he's telling me all these details that he's put in the script, like, "Oh, this is from this movie and this is from this movie," and I'm just reading the script and I'm like, Jesus. Like he's
Nice.
very passionate about these movies. And that's also why I love when because occasionally I will go to YouTube and I will like rewatch the movie and like read the comments that have been added since then. And a lot of the people in the comment section agree, like, oh, this is really faithful of the movies. Like, this is really cool, all the Easter eggs you have in it. And I'm just like, yeah, because Bobby gives a fuck about these movies.
Yeah.
He's very passionate about them.
Absolutely. And side note, and this is a thing for Bobby. Hey Bobby, as of like it started at 4 o'clock. I have AMC Fear Fest on. It's in the other room, but I was watching Friday the 13th, part 4, the final chapters on AMC Fear Fest, and it's over at 6. It's currently on right now. So Kimberly Beck is on my screen, Bobby.
Kimberly.
Which is, yeah, but that's good. And when Bobby is meticulous about those scenes, that's a really good thing, because even when I make movies and I'm on set and I own a production company, so when we're doing our movies, we always, even though the takes are good, you do want to get multiple takes, because you might want to use those different angles, or you might have said something in a better delivery. Even though they both sounded good, you might have emphasized a word more importantly and better, in that second take that you could use in editing. So it's
that's precisely it. There's one scene in the movie where me and Dylan are looking at the cabins and all that, and he's looking into one of them, and Catie asks like, oh, is there any bears in these woods? And he's like, oh, this doesn't look like the campgrounds, whatever. And the scene goes on, and then he's like, oh, do you want to go check out those cabins over there, pointing off screen? And I didn't have like a line to say afterwards, so I would change it up every take. I'd be like, oh yeah, or okay, or cool. But the take that's in the movie is me saying sure, but in the most Long Island accent I've ever heard in my life. And it was completely unintentional. I did not mean to say it that way, but I was like, sure. And then I walk off screen. Right. Unintentional, didn't mean to say it that way. Again, I am from Long Island, so I guess it just came out. But like Bobby, when I did that take, Bobby like said like cut. He's like, that's it. That's the one I'm using. I need to get your shore in there, because obviously Catie, watching the movie, Catie talks about Long Island houses with like porches and all that. So he's like, you talk about Long Island, so you might as well get the take where you sound so Long Island. And I was like, okay, fantastic. So now every time I watch that part of the movie, I'm just like, that one scene when I went, sure, completely unintentional.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. So I had James on, who played Jason in the movie. I had him on the show. We talked for about an hour. It was a long interview, and we really spoiled the crap out of the movie. It was so fun. And he mentioned about how he felt bad about doing your final scene, because he said you're short and everything. So he said
I'm a tiny lady, yes.
Yeah, so did he try to scare you at all on set?
No, James was the opposite. James was trying to make sure in every possible way that I was comfortable and that I felt safe doing all of the machete stuff, because obviously I'm not getting genuinely stabbed. So they're maneuvering the machete on my torso and back and all that stuff. And it was a real machete. It was a real thing that they dulled down, but it was still had sharp bits to it. And James was always making sure that I was comfortable with it, that I was okay. After every take, he's like, you good? And I was like, I'm great. Funny story, I ended up cutting myself on the machete because I was an idiot, and I was talking to somebody and I got passionate and went kunk and cut my finger. Ooh. So there's a scar on my finger, and I think it's funny because I'm like, I got a scar from my first movie. Nice. But James and Bobby felt so bad, and they were like, oh my god, are you okay? I can't believe this happened. And I'm like, guys, it is my own fault because I'm an idiot and I was talking and I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. So my own fault. But no, James never tried to scare me. James was the best scene partner to do that kind of stuff with, because he always tried to make sure that I was doing okay, especially when I had to spit up blood and convulse for like 20 minutes.
Nice. Well, don't say any more, because I'm gonna talk to you after this, and we'll get a lawsuit on Bobby Heckman for getting you cut with that machete.
I'm coming for your money, Bobby. I know where he lives. He lives right across the hall from me.
You're gonna own the rights to Victim No More.
Give me your money.
Love you, Bobby. No, but that's great. Did James try to like scare anybody off camera at all, like spooky setting or anything like that?
I only worked with James like a day and a half.
Okay.
So obviously James was in shots with like he was doing scenes with like Hans who plays Robbie. So I can't speak for those days because I wasn't there. But the days that we were there, no, James was always funny about it because James is obviously it was the middle of August and he's suffering in a silicone suit and a mask.
Yeah.
And he was just trying to be positive and would deflect his pain with jokes.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he mentioned it. So when he gets put into the suit, they would put baby powder in it so that he could like slip into it.
Yeah, he said
And
that,
obviously he's covered in water and sweat, so the water would mix with the baby powder. So it looked like a very concerning substance. If you catch my drift.
I got you.
And sometimes when he was killing me, he would drip on me. And he'd be like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And I'm just like, "It's fine." As my shoulder is drenched with James liquid, I was like,
Oh my God. Honestly, I don't even think filming in the winter would be good enough for being in that suit because that suit is so hot and it's tight and it's
tight. It's he was in the water, like the river with it. And I was like, I could not do that. Props to James.
It's cool
he's
to
a
play
man.
Jason Voorhees, but if you think about the prosthetic, the same thing with Freddy Krueger, he doesn't really wear a mask, but it's like 7 or 6 or whatever hours of makeup upon makeup and goop upon goop. And Jason Voorhees, same thing, like he has the hockey mask on, but you have to put the silicone suit on. You got to put if they're like, for example, I don't know if you saw part 7 where he has the spine out of his back. So like having the spine there, you got to do all that prop and prosthetics.
Yeah, especially the shirt shows it, like a bunch of his body and organs are showing. So it's not like you can just put like a tracksuit on him and just call it a day. You have to show all that.
Exactly. And it just becomes so much. And then when you go into the water, like you said, with the baby powder, that all sticks to you. And and I don't even know, like if you have the baby powder on the water mixing, is it even easier to get it off at that point? Because does it make like a clay type mold even?
I don't know.
I don't know the physics of that, but it's like that is probably not fun to be in. And then on top of that, you're in, like you said, the middle of August, the summertime. The heat is scorching you. Oh my goodness, like I can only imagine.
I'm like, it was hot for me, and I was literally in like leggings and a shirt. I'm like, and I can't picture what it was like for James. But shout out to our special effects makeup artist Ricky Vitus. He did all of that, all the Jason stuff. He did my stabby wounds. He did obviously Joe or Dylan's eye. He's amazing. I love him. He's great.
That's awesome. So, what do you believe was the most complicated or hardest part about filming your scenes?
Probably the stabby stuff, really. Because everything else was pretty simple. The days where we shot at the cabin were really fun because we were genuinely at a cabin location that was abandoned. So those days were pretty fun, and it was just walking around, meandering, and just talking about it. But shooting my stabby scenes were, I wouldn't say they were like so difficult, but they were definitely the most difficult because obviously I've never been stabbed before. So like you having to portray that like wide-eyed and shakiness it's pretty tiring because obviously I'm tensing my body to show that obviously there's like an object in my stomach that shouldn't be there. And from what Bobby kept on saying to me was that when I get stabbed, Jason basically punctures my lungs so I can't scream. So if you notice, Catie can't scream. Catie doesn't scream. She's just like, and so portraying that without screaming and seizing and spitting blood and all of that, because also that doing those takes, it wasn't like 2 seconds and then I was done. I would have to do that for a couple minutes. So it was tiring on my body, and I would say that would be the most difficult part, was being physically exhausted after just being like,
Yeah, and definitely, and even when you're spitting the blood up, the blood's getting on your clothes, and I'm not sure if you had prosthetics for the interior where he would stab you, but when he would do that as well. So a lot of that's got to be done also in one take, because it's hard, like if you already stained yourself with blood, you can't reshoot any of those scenes and be like, oh, continuity wise, that blood's not, now there when it shouldn't have been. So it's
that's
like,
precisely it.
yeah, so that puts added pressure onto you to make sure you get this done in one take correctly to get the scene that you need, because obviously, and I interviewed Stu Charno from Friday the 13th Part 2, and he said the weirdest thing about being in a movie, he didn't die in Friday the 13th, but he died in Christine. He said the weirdest thing being an adult is pretending that you're dying when you're really not. And it's fun, but it is, because you never no, we didn't die before, we didn't get stabbed
Yeah.
before, like, so you have to act that out and make it look
Yeah,
legit.
and it's hard to do that without seeming like a cheesy, like usual stereotypical Friday the 13th, because
Yeah,
like obviously, like with most Friday the 13th movies, you don't usually cheer for the counselors or the
right.
humans getting killed. You're usually like, yeah, Jason. But in
How's he
this
gonna kill
movie,
him, this how is he gonna kill this victim?
exactly, like you're curious, and like when it's some weird wacky thing, you're just like, ha ha. But with this movie, I know Bobby wanted to try and at least have Catie and Dylan be likable people, so that when they do die, you're kind of like, oh. So I didn't want, obviously, if the audience likes my character, I don't want them to think that my death is goofy, which it kind of is, but like I want them to feel something. So again, it's hard to portray an event that I have not experienced and hope will never have to experience,
Right.
and portray it in a way that makes the audience feel like, oh, instead of like,
Right. Yeah, and we all are going to die someday, but I think everybody wants to die the most peaceful in your sleep type of way possible.
not Jason shanking you in the back.
Exactly.
Not the good way to go.
Exactly. I kind of agree with that. I can agree with that. I always said that it's an honor to be killed by Jason, but fictionally, not realistically.
Yeah, not realistically. Not realistically. Don't have that.
Absolutely. So the last question I do got for you, do you have any projects or anything at all, social media accounts, websites, or anything at all that you want to promote? And also, where can Victim No More be found for those that are watching this that want to watch this movie?
Victim No More can be found for free on YouTube if you just type in Victim No More film project, or just Victim No More, and then Vimeo with the same thing. Or you can go on, I believe it's victimnomorefilm.com. We have our own website. I might be quoting that wrong. I don't
I think
know.
it's
But
victimnomore.com, I think.
something like that.
Something like
And
that.
you can watch it on there too. On the website, there's going to be merch there that people can buy. Okay. So those three places. I am currently in a show on Long Island called the musical comedy Murders in 1940. So if anyone's local to Long Island, that's playing each weekend in October, and I'm an interesting character in that movie, a show. I play a German maid that has many secrets, but I won't indulge on what they are. Very different character than Catie, by the way. Two completely different people.
Yeah.
And social media, I guess my Instagram is Almighty, ALLMIDEE. If you want to see how my dumb life is going, my dumb life.
Awesome. Well, I thank you, Deanna, for joining me. I mean, this is a lot of fun. I had a lot of laughs. Learned a lot of things. I know you were on Greg Gilbert's Python's Paradise show, and me and Greg are really good friends. And he said he had a blast interviewing you, and obviously I had a blast. So he definitely, that lived up. So I'm really glad that we got to do this.
Me too. Thank you, Scotty.
Not a problem. And for anybody that wants to check out Victim No More, as Deanna said, check it out on youtube.com, and there's going to be merch. I know, go to the Victim No More Facebook page or Bobby Heckman's personal page. I don't remember if it's on both, but he has events that he's going to be at that he will be selling merch at as well. So check out his Facebook page and contact him if you want to get anything, and also victimnomore.com, or I think that's the name of the site, but check that
Something
out.
along those lines.
Something along those lines, but definitely check that out. And again, Deanna, thank you so much.
Thank you, Scotty.
Yep. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Okay, bye. Bye.